Hello everyone and welcome to the Ravenflight channel. If you end up liking this video, be sure to drop a like. And if you are looking for more content about professional Counter-Strike, that's mostly what I'm going to be doing on this channel, be sure to subscribe as well. Um, I'm going to be making videos on most Tier 1 events because I'm a degenerate and just sit here and watch them. And I think it's fun and I like talking about it, so I want to share that with all of you guys. So, on to today's topic, I suppose. Um, a little late, but I want to go over the Blast Spring groups, just what happened. It's the first Tier 1 event of the year. Um, and really just talk about what I saw, my opinions on stuff, some things I enjoyed from some of the teams, some things that I really just kind of hated. I'm just going to quickly go over the results of the tournament, talk a little bit about um, just what the consequences of that are. And then I'm going to go more in depth into some of the teams that competed. I won't be going through all of them because then the video would be 40 minutes long. But I will be just including some timestamps for the teams that I'm going to be talking about. And if you guys want me to talk about some more of the teams from the tournament, I can make another video. So just quickly to go over the teams that qualified for spring finals and which ones will be going to the showdown. We had G2, Faze, Vitality, Navi, Heroic, and Astralis qualify for spring finals directly. And Liquid, NIP, Evil Geniuses, Complexity, Big, and OG will be going to the showdown to compete for the last remaining spots in spring finals. I know HLTV doesn't do an official MVP for this tournament for any of the Blast Groups tournaments because they're just placement tournaments and they really don't matter aside from that, but they're fun to watch. The MVP of this tournament, at least I believe he was the highest rated player at the event. He led in 5 different statistical categories, was Nico. He was excellent, and I will be talking a little bit more about him later on. Now, to go into some of the teams, and these are mostly the big teams at the event, talking a little bit about the ones that qualified directly, didn't have to go into the knockout stage, some of the ones that qualified through the knockout stage, and then a few of the ones that didn't qualify, and why there are some concerns there. Moving on now to Liquid. Sorry about that rough transition there. I had initially recorded a bit about ninjas in pajamas as well, but I decided I wasn't happy with it, and it didn't really add anything to the video, so we're skipping past them and moving right to Liquid. Um, what the hell happened with Liquid? I expected a ton more coming out of World Finals. I was really, really impressed with them at World Finals and most of the tournaments leading up to there, even though Yakindar went through kind of a rough patch before Finals, picked it back up. I really expected them to continue on their form. They are being forced into the showdown after losing to Big and trying to flex a 7-map pool for the entire event. It didn't work. They played Nuke twice, lost both times. Lost Mirage after picking it against OG. The only map pick they won at the entire event was Overpass against Complexity. And Complexity were pretty good at this event relative to expectations, but Liquid shouldn't be losing that map to Complexity. And then they, as I said, they played Overpass, lost it against Complexity, won it another time, played Ancient and Anubis twice, both of them, only, with a 50% win rate on each of those maps. And they weren't consistently banning a map. They floated Inferno and Vertigo, but didn't pick into either of them. In terms of the players, we're going to start off good, and it's going to get worse. Naf was really good. I really liked watching Naf at this event. He had a 1.15 rating. He won 71% of his 1v1s and 1v2s, which, I mean, it's Naf. Shouldn't surprise me. Still crazy. And won 68% of his opening duels. which for a player who isn't really the kind of player to take a lot of initiative, that's really, really great. Like I said, though, we're going to get worse from here on out. Yakindar and Elige, really just mid at best. Yakindar had a 0.96 HLTV rating, and a 0.96 opening kill rating, which for Yakindar is that's ridiculous. Trying to come up with a superlative without cursing, so YouTube thinks about giving me money at some point. And compared to World Finals, at World Finals he had a 1.08 HLTV rating and a 1.14 opening kill rating. That's a massive drop. This could be kind of a warm-up event kind of thing where he's not taking it as seriously, but considering we're going right into Katowice from here, I don't know why anybody would do that. Like, sure, don't waste all your energy and burn yourself out at spring groups, but also you want to take yourselves kind of seriously. You want to at least show people what you're really capable of. And I didn't get that from Yakindar. He attempted openings in 15% fewer rounds than he did at World Finals at similar efficiency, and that's what really kind of tipped me off about this. There isn't a reason as to why he took less opening duels, and that's because everybody else on the team was taking more. But the only person whose efficiency really changed all that much was Naf's, and it went way up. Elige's stats didn't really change all that much. He was attempting, I think, 5% more, but efficiency didn't really change. That's fine. OC attempted an opening kill in 18% of rounds, but his efficiency dropped way more than it should have. He was only attempting, I think, 5 or 6% more opening kills than at World Finals, but his efficiency went down to 45% from 57. And that's bad, especially if you're using an op, which, if you didn't know, is kind of a cheat code for opening kills. Just kind of to bounce off that, I don't know what the plan with OC is, quite frankly. His overall rating dropped down to a 0.93 at this event. He's not the primary source of opening kills. That would be Yakindar and Elige. Kind of a waste for it not to be, but he's mostly a supportive element of the team. Most of his time is spent holding an angle and allowing for that space for Yakindar and Elige to really shine, which is fine if he was consistently hitting the shots he was supposed to, which he's not. And that's the big concern here, and it's also why I think Yakindar and Elige's stats have kind of dropped a little bit, is because they can't depend on OC to be that kind of supportive op. But if OC can just consistently hit his shots, be a 1.05 to 1.10 rated player consistently, I think that's the best scenario. He doesn't need to be taking immense amount of opening kills, but the ones he does take, he needs to be winning them. And that's really the biggest problem here, is that he's not winning them. Moving on, Heroic. Wow, that was a weird event. I didn't really know what I was going to be seeing at any given point in time when Heroic was playing. I was either going to see the best team in the world, or I was going to see a team that would throw 6 rounds in a row, not win a single clutch, and lose frickin' EG. Their opening loss in the event was a loss to EG. I think EG were decent compared to their last few showings. They shouldn't be beating Heroic. That was weird. I mentioned clutching earlier. Heroic lost 8 clutches in that first series against EG. They won 2. That's bad. When you've got players like Shush and Stown who are so freaking good in the clutch, and then Cadian who can just pull the most wild crap out of his ass whenever he wants to, you'd expect them to be winning a little more than that. And overall at the event, they lost more clutches than they won. They lost 26 clutches to the 18 they won, um, which is rough. That's a recipe for losing maps. Because it doesn't matter how dominant you are. If you're losing just a stupid amount of clutches, you're losing a stupid amount of rounds for stupid reasons. There were a lot of teams at the event who were saying that Heroic looked like best team in the world or are the best team in the world, and I know that's where they are in the world rankings, but they didn't look it. At times they absolutely did. There were moments where they looked really, really freaking good. Like in the maps they won by a combined 128 to 48. 72% of the rounds they won in the games they won, which is ridiculous. In the maps they lost, they only won 40% of the rounds. When they looked good, they looked really good. That's the point of that statement. That was a really convoluted way of saying it, but that's the point. I enjoyed watching Heroic. I always do. They're a really fun team. Cadian's an absolute animal. Like, he's just funny. He's really funny. And the way he calls CT sides is a lot of fun to watch. And always something fresh, always something new. It is volatile, but that's just how it works. And I don't think he's going to change that. And I also wouldn't change it either. I wouldn't have him do it. In terms of their maps, God, just play Vertigo every game. I don't care. Get Navi to not ban Vertigo. Just play Vertigo. Yabby is an absolute monster on that map. At Blast Spring Groups, he had a 1.39 rating on the maps of Vertigo they played compared to a 1.04 overall. He is ridiculous. And I don't know if that's just because that map is the only one he really gets that freedom, or if he just has that or if he just played an insane amount of it. It's a possibility. But he is crazy on that map. Tessus looks incredible on ramp. And I mean, just overall, their calling on both T and CT side is really efficient. It's really fun to watch. But God, if you can pick that frickin' map, I think they only lost to Vitality, and that's fair. It's just the Zywoo effect in it. But just play Vertigo. Like every game, just do it. But like I said, overall they qualified. Rough start, good ending. Tessus was the best performer. Really impressive. I mean, he always is. I mean, it's just kind of how Heroic works. They always have one guy who's just putting up really solid numbers. I think Tessus had a 1.15 rating at the event. Really good numbers, but nothing like superstar level. I mean, they haven't really had somebody put up those superstar level numbers since Stown was putting up like 1.4 ratings on LAN at the back end of last year. And also Tessus was a really great source of opening kills for the team. But overall, I expected more from Heroic, but they qualified. They made it. That's what matters. Now, the one that people were probably waiting for, and the one that I was not really expecting to be writing as much as I did about, Navi. Like Heroic, they made it through, but I have less positives about Navi than I do about Heroic. It was really, really rough. I suppose if we're going to start anywhere, let's just start with their T sides. I don't know what the calling situation is. I don't know if they're just running set strats from Blade, which is probably what they're doing, and then just having electronic and simple do the mid rounding, but it's something about it isn't working. Their T sides were god awful. They were just boring to watch, really. Most of the enjoyment I got from watching Navi T sides was seeing what this CT sides were doing to take advantage of their lethargy, I guess. Uh, like, it was slow, but not like Cloud9 Outsiders slow. Like, they're not actually taking any map control. This is just sitting around waiting for an execute. Overall, it just looked like their T sides were dependent on Simple doing something absolutely crazy. Just individually on their T sides as well. Everybody was below average in opening K rating and opening success rate, except for Simple, but that's a given. Those averages are 0.9 and 43% for those of anybody who's interested, which is just not great. But like I said, I don't know if this is poor calling. I don't know if this is getting used to having NPL on the roster and not really knowing how anybody's playing. Just complete unfamiliarity with their roles. I don't know. They got to figure it out though, because they're not winning crap with a performance like that. If they pull up to Katowice and put in the same performance, they're going out before the playoffs start. That's bold prediction. I don't think, realistically, I don't think they're going to do that at Katowice. But if they do, they're not making it past groups. And a lot like Liquid, there was only one real shining light on this team on T sides, and that's Simple. He 1.29 rating on T sides, which is crazy. I think it's the highest of the event. I could be wrong. Honestly, it might just be Nico. Um, uh, he was the only positive player on T sides for Navi. I have a lot of questions about their map pool. They aren't like a Liquid kind of situation where they're trying to say they can play 7 maps, but really can't. It's just more, I don't know what they're good on except for Overpass. Oh, they were stellar on Overpass. Only map they were good on. They lost and they played Mirage and Nuke twice. Lost both times. They played Inferno 5 times. They only won it twice. They lost 2 against G2, which is fine. G2 were incredible. But they lost 1 against Complexity. I said this about Liquid. It applies even more to Navi. They should not be losing that map. Their CT sides are even weirder than their T sides. If they're calling on T sides is weird, their CT sides are just wild. I don't know how they're organizing themselves. There doesn't feel like there's any plan, like there's any kind of set pieces that they have that they can say, we don't have, if we're just on Inferno, for example, we don't have banana control. We've just got Yakindar or Brawlen or Nico or something just running up banana and taking control. We don't have banana control. Let's aggress into apps. Let's take alt mid. Let's take top mid. And really assert ourselves in brackets. There doesn't seem to be a plan. There doesn't seem to be any kind of thing to counteract that. Their rotations were slow and almost always just off entirely. I don't know what their reads were for the most part, but they just felt weird. Their CT sides were just weird. And even weirder considering that Simple, usually, the bastion of CT consistency, was, I want to say, bad. His numbers weren't bad. By Simple standards, they were bad. Overall, he had a 1.12 rating at this event, At all big LAN events last year, he had a 1.31 rating, which is just kind of what you expect from him. And have the way it dropped on the CT sides was just bad. And the only exception to this rule is overpass, which makes sense. If you're the op on overpass, you just kind of sit, or you don't just sit, but you can go into bathrooms. You can take really safe, really aggressive fights, which is weird to say, but a lot of the aggressive fights on overpass are pretty safe if you're opping. And the rotations are really safe too. And he can just kind of run around. He doesn't need to depend on anybody else, and he can have the impact in spades. Um, and but other than that, it was rough. It was not great at all from Navi overall. I would bet on them bouncing back just because they have so many times before. But if they continue in this form, they're not winning anything soon. Now, this is the fun part. This is the fun part. We've got through the depressing stuff. We're going to talk about the 3 teams who I believe are in contention for the best team in the world. And we'll see at Katowice and in Paris what really these guys can do against each other, because they didn't have the chance to, except for no, they didn't. They just didn't have the chance to. We'll start with Faze. They played Complexity and played twice against OG. Only lost Ancient against OG. Brokey and Twists were insane. 1.36 and 1.3 ratings respectively. Brokey was taking a lot more initiative than he usually does, which is great to see. Compared to, this is just the number I have in my head because I'm doing another video about it. But at Antwerp, the major that Faze won, he was only taking, I think, 10% of the opening duels. He took 15% of them at this event, which is great to see. 70% success rate, which is incredible. And Twist was so good. I love watching Twists. He's one of my favorite players, along with Nico and Electronic. But Twists was stellar. And Kerrigan was really picking up some of the slack. He has been recently. It's really great to see. Those two as an entry pack looked fantastic. Speaking of Kerrigan, his calling was really great. I only got to see the game against Complexity, but they ran circles around them. It was so much fun to watch. And Rops and Estag, well, Rops kind of on his own. Like I expected Rops to be pretty solid. He was pretty solid. Esatag really stepped up. I was really impressed with Esatag. The one specific map I'm thinking of is a game on Overpass against Complexity. He had one on Ancient as well. I can't remember if it was against OG. I believe it was against OG. But this one against Overpass, a 2.02 rating. For those of you who weren't necessarily familiar with how the HLTV system works, 1.0 is an average game. 1.3 is like a really, really good game. 1.3 to 1.5 is like a really, really good game. 2.02 he went 31-9, and I think like a 16-5 win or something like that. He was ridiculous in that game, and I am really excited to see what Faze do at Katowice. And if you are as well, I'm going to be making a video later on this week about my predictions and expectations for Katowice. And then I'll be making videos throughout the tournament, at least covering the different stages of it. Now moving on to Vitality. They played Astralis, EG, and Heroic. The only map they lost was against Heroic on Nuke, which is fair. That's one of the maps that Heroic are pretty consistently good at. Zywoo and Spinks. Wow. Even more wow than Brokey and Twists, considering Zywoo had a 1.42 rating, Spinks had a 1.32 rating. Finally showing up. If he can start putting together the form that he showed on ENCE in the first half of last year, this team can beat anybody on any given day, especially if Dupree and Magis continue the kind of, they don't even need to continue the upwards trend they are on. If they stay even remotely close to where they are now, I think both averaging around a 1.1 to 1.13 rating, this team is going to be incredible. And I'm really excited to see what they do with this year if Spinks continues on like this. I think a lot of it has to do with them getting used to communicating in English even more. Um, but overall, I'm really excited about this Vitality team. And at Katowice, I mean, I'll tell you more about what I think about what Vitality can do at Katowice later. But I'm excited. I'm really excited. And speaking of excitement, for context, I have been a massive G2 fan since I started watching Counter Strike. I have been coping so hard for so long, and now this team is so freaking good. And this isn't a Stockholm situation where they're good because Nico's putting up stupid crazy numbers. He's putting up stupid crazy numbers, but that's not the reason they're good. Um, and for the most part, I will try and keep my bias to G2 aside and be more objective. But every once in a while, I just gotta let loose. You just gotta let me cook, okay? Just let it work. Um, they didn't lose a map at this event. They played big once and twice against Navi. Say what you want about the levels of competition there. It's still Navi. It's still simple. They continued their exceptional play from World Finals, and honestly, this is the best we've seen Nico since Stockholm. His numbers, the numbers that he put up, are better than we saw him at Stockholm. But obviously, this is a groups event and not the frickin' major. Um, he had the highest rating at the event, but 1.48. 1.7 impact rating, which is quite literally off of the scale that HLTV has, and a 97.5 ADR. He led the event in opening kill rating with 1.49. He attempted an opener in 31% of rounds, succeeded in 64% of them. The next highest at the event was Zaiwu with a 1.34 opening kill rating on lower attempt rates and efficiency. Now, I see a lot of people talking about, oh, this is just G2 getting carried by Nico. They're going to fail. He's going to choke, etc., etc. This isn't Stockholm G2. At Stockholm, Nico got an opener. G2 won that round 68% of the time. At this event, Nico gets an opener. They win that round 88% of the time. That's a 20% jump, and it's a sign that this team has gotten so much better around him. My favorite highlight from this event was the pistol ace on Inferno. How he got some of those kills, I can't tell you. I don't think Navi could tell you. I don't think they want to talk about it. Just on to some of the other players. Monesi had a 1.16 rating, which is fine. There's only so many people you can kill when Nico's playing like that. And he's been showing a lot of growth in the more rotation-heavy roles that he's been playing. If we just want to talk about Inferno, because that was G2's most played map, he's been playing the rotation role, shifting between Arch and Lane, coming over to Banana, really doing a lot of work all over the map on CT sides, and he's been doing a lot better. Taking opening fights in 17% of rounds, succeeding 69% of the time. Nice. And overall is just continuing to look like an absolute world beater in the making. Hunter and JKS, I love those two. They are just the bromance is there. The teamwork that they have when they duo anchor on Inferno, and the work they do between themselves, trading lurk roles, and allowing each other to take more space when they need to is so much fun. I'm really enjoying the way they play together. And Huxi, my king, ruler of my world, his calling has evolved a lot since he's joined G2. It's gotten so much better. They were rough at the beginning. I had my doubts, but they're getting really good, especially in mid rounds. And I am really excited to see what G2 and the other two teams, Vitality and Faze, to see what they can do at Katowice, because this has the making for one of the best events we've ever seen. And with the major coming up, I think a month and a half after that, and with Pro League in between, we've got it coming the first half of the year. I'm really excited to see what happens, and I hope you guys are too. But that's the end of it for now. Bring on Katowice, and I'll see you guys next time.